That lime is intense.
Okay. So would you say it's comparable to the lemon one then?
Actually, I think it's a little stronger, but yeah.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great. Like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we've got some what-if concept art leaks, Mike.
I looked at those earlier, so I'm prepared.
I was actually going to say, did you see them yet? So there we go. We're actually ahead of the game here. A full live-action Gundam movie is in the works for Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to add live-action because there are other Gundam movies out there. But this is different. Army of the Dead, also on Netflix, gives us a full trailer this week to talk about, and more.
Speaking of Gundam, it brings me back to when I was a kid, and anime was popular enough to where the Gundam model kits had started making it into like department stores, like here in the United States. And I loved them because I love giant robots. I love the aesthetic. And I was a big Lego fan when I was a kid. I'm still a big Lego fan now. And my favorite parts were always the moving parts. I was always trying to make robots. So it just felt like this is just somebody catering directly to me. But one thing that always kind of bugged me about the model kits, especially if you're a kid that doesn't really have the means to kind of really finally finish a model, is once you get it done, it just kind of looks like an action figure that wasn't fully painted at the factory. And then depending on how the little pieces came out of the kit, like you might just have some thin plastic parts that don't hold on very, very well. So I remember once Gundam got a little bit more popular after the model kits, we got like legit action figures of the Gundams. And those actually, I love those like so much more because I was like, I don't want to really build these so much anymore. I just want to play with them. I'm a kid. So my nostalgia kicked in and I went on Amazon, and now my wish list just has like a bunch of like Gundam action figures on there. And you have to read the descriptions very carefully because a lot of the photos on Amazon are all fully finished, polished stuff. So you got to make sure it's an action figure and not a model kit.
Well,
so now I'm ready to pull the trigger on all these like Gundam action figures, and I'm just like, I have no place to put these right now. I don't really have like an office with like a shelf where I can display all of my wares, but they're just waiting for me in my wish list.
Yeah, well, I remember when we went to Comic-Con, and I grew up. I had a couple Gundam Wing models myself, right? And because one of them, the Gundam Wing Zero, it could you build it and then it could transform between the Gundam and the airplane mode. But when we went to Comic-Con a couple years ago together, like there's a whole Gunpla section. Like this whole idea of Gundam model building is just taken off. But I remember the most, again, the piece is not holding, but the it's the stickers you add later. Like you add stickers to some of them later, and you're like, why? And then they just kind of fall off.
Yeah, they never look at good. Like you have the idea in your head of just like, if I knew how to paint a model, or if I knew how to get a hold of these materials, I would paint this thing. And then putting this sticker on it just ruins the whole process because I'm not gonna be able to get the sticker off. I don't know what solvents are. I'm 12 years old. I can't get the residue off. So you're just kind of left with almost like this blank Gundam. It's almost like a Gundam without its makeup on. Just like you're just not ready to go out into the world right now.
Or like it's like got a fake mustache on because you put the stickers on, and they're not quite straight, and you're like, I can't peel these off.
I think some of my favorite stores inside of malls are always those kind of fly-by-night stores where they're not necessarily the islands, right, that are in the middle of like the walkways. They're those like little booths, or I guess not booths. They're like the little stores that like somebody managed to scrape together enough rent, and they just brought in all of their crap that they really like to sell it. And there's this one store in a mall nearby us that it's just, they sell a lot of Japanese stuff. So I walked in there once and they had all these Gundam action figures. And I was like, oh, this is great. But then they're all of their own like custom prices. So it's just like, I don't want to spend like $60 on this thing that's like 6 inches tall. So lo and behold, Jeff Bezos has got me covered over on Amazon.
Yeah, you get them on Amazon. Two-day shipping sometimes, maybe 2 weeks now. Who knows?
I'll have to sell.
You'll get them eventually.
I'll have to sell all my Dogecoin to really invest in a Gundam. That's what I'll do. That's what I'll do with all my crypto money.
This is very topical, Mike. It's very, very topical for how things are going.
I own finally owns some Dogecoin now, so now I have a reason to incessantly talk about it to try to increase its value.
I can't confirm he is incessantly talking about it.
There's no conflict of interest here. I'm not like I'm not like a journalist that covers like the financial markets. So this is just a Superhero Slate podcast where now if you want to be a super fan, you got to buy Dogecoin to
I'm
raise all
on this
ships in the harbor, right?
No. We're good. I was thinking, just before we get off this, I think we've talked about the show Zoids, which was essentially robot fighting, for competition.
They had model kits too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, because the Liger, which was the main one, it had it was modular, right? Like the show is built around making toys. Like you get the base, and then you buy all the extra add-on kits that go on this one, I guess animal shaped Gundam at the end of the day. So. We'll talk more about Gundam later. That's actually later in the notes, Mike. We're jumping the gun here. I'm gonna jump into Corn Stream because I'm excited for the next HBO Max movie coming out, Mike. And you know what that is?
That's Mortal Kombat. I would do the scream right now, but I don't feel like screaming into my microphone.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody knows the song, right? It's not even called Mortal Kombat. It's not even called the theme to Mortal Kombat. It's got some other name. I can't think of it here. Techno Syndrome. Techno Syndrome is what it's called. You never think that was the song, but
that sounds like an unlockable character, somebody that would be a color variant of Sub-Zero. It's he's green or something like that, or
that's Reptile,
or he's neon or something.
Yeah, Techno Syndrome. He's one of those robots. Remember Cyrex or?
Yeah. They have one of those in the second Mortal Kombat movie, right? Yep. I think I remember there's a desert. There's a desert kind of a landscape when they're fighting.
Well,
if I remember correctly.
You're jumping the gun here because to prep for this upcoming Mortal Kombat reboot, I've gone back and started rewatching the old Mortal Kombat movies. My wife has never seen those, so it's always fun to take her on these journeys of these. I'm like, when I was 10, I remember having a birthday party to celebrate the release of Mortal Kombat 2 and watching 1 and 2 with all my friends for my birthday. And that first one, it's interesting. It actually isn't horrible. It's just filmed really awkwardly for a fight movie. If how most of them are cut close now and there's a lot of cuts between shots to make it seem faster. They didn't really do that back then. They just left them wide and long. And I'm like, there's a reason behind this. But I went and looked up the production. Apparently in the production, Paul Anderson, the guy who's known for all the Resident Evil movies, right? That franchise he begat us. He would have the actors practice, who were actually martial arts people, and then wear them out because they'd have to do everything in one take multiple times. So they would do the whole fight scene in one take. So they'd be tired. So the ones he used sometimes were the later ones because they were this looks great, but that's not their best performance overall.
Yeah, maybe put 1 or 2 cuts in there. Nobody's saying throw in 23 cuts to get Liam Neeson over a fence. But maybe a couple cuts in there. Use the best shots. Maybe a routine earlier in the day.
Fill them with some close-ups of people swinging fists and kicks, right? And what's fun about that is again they play literally that song over and over in that movie every time
they knew they had a banger on them.
Yeah, they did. They knew what they were going to go with. I think that makes it better. But the other thing is this movie. I was telling my wife, the fighting escalates very quickly. The first fight of this whole tournament is Liu Kang versus some other random guy on the beach fighting in the sand, right? And they're just we're just having a regular fight. And then it goes to the next one where Sonya Blade has to fight Kano, kills him. Then the next thing is it's just randomly cuts to Johnny Cage walking in a forest being chased by some sort of hell dragon chain coming out of a Scorpion's hand, right? So
I remember that scene. This was one of those movies I watched a lot over and over again. We may have had the VHS, but I wasn't really at an age where I was really comprehending the story of Mortal Kombat. I was just remembering the moments. I can remember where somebody what's the scene? Is it Johnny Cage that's fighting Scorpion and sort of it almost looks like it's hell or something?
Well, yeah, so he starts in the forest and then they teleport to the hellscape thing that's got full scaffolding. Yep, and then
I vividly remember the scaffolding.
yes, the scaffolding, and then Sub-Zero's like he doesn't really do anything, and he gets killed with a bucket of water thrown at him.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Forms into a little ice pick thing. I'm pretty sure they come back in the second movie, so I'm excited to take part of that. And then I also got I haven't watched them yet, but the those short-lived, had 2 seasons, but there were those series. They put them on YouTube. I think.
Yeah, the YouTube Mortal Kombat series.
Yeah. So it has 2 seasons. I have those as well. So I'm gonna try to crank through those before.
Really cramming in that lore, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean I love Mortal Kombat. I've been playing the game. The games like they're like, oh yeah, this is what happened between the first and second game. Like while I'm playing Mortal Kombat 11, I'm like they didn't have cutscenes back then. They didn't have dialogue. You just fought people until you got to the end or got annoyed with it and turned it off. Right? Like there's no way to tell what happened at the original tournament. So they've been backfilling all these older games.
Yeah, I mean that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing about putting a narrative around any fighting game, whether it's like Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat. You just have to contrive a very weird scenario to kind of get people fighting to the death over and over and over again in a movie, right? Because a movie traditionally has 3 acts, and you got to have more than just like 3 fights in one movie. So you have to like be like, okay, well, we'll put a fight outside of a ring, like in a alleyway or something like that. Well, then you got to weave a story in there. And so it just doesn't always work. So I'm really curious how they're going to do this in the new Mortal Kombat movie, because we're in like a new era of filmmaking where, if you're going to do something even like crazy, there's got to be a little bit of a reasoning behind it, right? Even like in Kong versus Godzilla, like, yeah, they had to take him to the center of the earth, but there was at least a reason for it, kind of. So
yeah. Well, he had to get a Stormbreaker.
You had to get his axe.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the whole idea of Mortal Kombat is you win, you save your realm, right? Like you obviously wouldn't win as the Earth people. That's fine. But I mean, the actor, I can't think of his name, who played Shang Tsung, just does a really good job with it, right? Like, I can't think of his name. I don't even have it pulled up, but they actually use him in Mortal Kombat 11 as the model for Shang Tsung again. So I'm like, that's how I kind of get, is where the game becomes the movie becomes the game later on. So. I think that's really cool. So I'm excited to watch the second one. I know the second one's not that saying that the first Mortal Kombat didn't jump the shark, but the second one definitely jumps the shark even more, and it gets wild. But yeah. Also a fun fact: after I watched it, I looked up. Cameron Diaz was originally cast as Sonya Blade, but she broke her wrist while training for the role, and so they had to recast her. And I was like, oh, okay, that's sad.
Totally different franchise here.
Yeah, I think they cast her without even, like, she was filming The Mask, I think, or something, like, before anyone even knew who she was.
She wasn't even an action star in Charlie's Angels yet?
No, well before that. I mean, she may have been skyrocketed new popularity, being in Mortal Kombat. May have taken that role.
What could have been?
Yeah, we'll figure it out later. But yeah, I've been going down that road. I'm really excited for that. So, I'm looking forward to the new one. Apparently it's out overseas, in theaters, in some areas, and I've seen articles saying like, oh, here are some of like the goriest scenes from the movie, and I'm like, don't click them, save myself for this big release on HBO Max, and I think at the end of the month, not this weekend, but 2 weekends, I believe. So 2 more weeks. Mike, people, what have you been up to? I mean, I don't know what this first thing is on your list here.
Well, if you would have known what it was, Chris, you would have had the perfect segue, because it's also on HBO Max. It's an HBO Max original called Made for Love.
Wait, is this the How I Met Your Mother, actual mother lady?
Yep,
Girl?
that's
okay.
exactly how I was going to describe it, because I don't know the actress's name. She is the mother from How I Met Your Mother, but she was also in a Hulu movie last year, 2020, like mid-pandemic, called Palm Springs
with Andy Samberg.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed. So she has a new show called Made for Love. I believe it's based on a book, if I remember the opening credits correctly. And I think there might be attached byline that says limited series, but it definitely sets itself up for another season. So maybe the term limited series just has lost all meaning nowadays in the streaming landscape. But this is basically kind of like a dramedy of what if we take one kind of Black Mirror idea and stretch it across an entire series, which you would think, might get a little old, but I thought it was actually pretty good. It kind of evolves and gets kind of crazier and more interesting as the episode goes on. So I know it's hard in a landscape of streaming and all of this competition where you say, oh, just hold on for a couple of episodes, but I started enjoying it more the further I got into it. There's eight full episodes out now. I believe that's the full first season on HBO Max right now, and it's about a woman who's married to kind of like an amalgamation of like Steve Jobs, all of these other kind of like tech CEO billionaires, right? And this guy, he makes all of these like smartphones, all of this other like super advanced technology, and his new product that he wants to bring to market is like a chip that syncs two people's brains together. So in order to kind of get it to market, the first person that he implants it in, and it is his wife against her will, and things like spiral out from there. I was surprised to see the father of the mother from How I Met Your Mother, I should really just learn her name to make this easier, is played by Ray Romano, which is great. I love seeing him pop up and stuff. I feel like I haven't seen him in a bit since I saw him in Kumail Nanjiani's movie. What was that called? Was it called Lovesick, or was it Sick or Sickness? I don't remember what it was called, but
something about being sick.
Yeah, Kumail's a kind of independent comedy. He was in that, and that was really, really great. So you can find that on HBO Max. It's just 8 episodes. I think they're like 30 minutes an episode, so you can knock those out pretty quickly. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, they're pushing those ads pretty hard on there. I stopped and looked at that the other day when we were looking for something to watch.
Yeah, so you could check that out. And then update, the wife and I have finished season 1 of Smallville. This is the Smallville check-in update of the podcast. And I was thinking the other day, and I'm sure that there is a comic book run out there that follows a bit of Clark Kent's life. And I believe there's also a comic book run out there that is literally called Smallville.
It's
and I think
season 11.
Yeah, I think it kind of it syncs up a little bit with the show. But I was thinking, if there's 10 seasons of Smallville, this has to be the most thorough look / exploration of the character of Clark Kent before he kind of officially becomes Superman. So I was starting to think, whether or not, you think anyone thinks the show is cheesy or if it's worth your time or not, like, this actually is a pretty, I would say, important addition to Superman's lore in general. Obviously they do a lot of things that aren't traditionally in Superman's lore of, like, Lex Luthor, like, also just, like, hanging out in Smallville, like, running, like, a chemical plant just so he is conveniently nearby for the narrative, right? But I feel like by the time I get to season 10 of this show, I'll just have more of, like, an emotional connection of what Clark Kent was like before he became Superman. So I'm hoping that maybe this will kind of help me enjoy just Superman more in general. Like when I go to the next theater viewing experience of watching Superman, whether it's Henry Cavill or whoever it's going to be, because I feel like most of the time when I'm watching Superman on the big screen, he just kind of seems like this kind of Boy Scout without any background, right? It would be almost like watching like a Captain America movie where you never got to see when he was scrawny Steve Rogers. You never got to see what he was like before. So I'm having a fun time. There's some pretty intense episodes. There's also some pretty cheesy episodes. There was this one, I believe it's in season 2 because the 2 seasons are starting to blend, where there's this woman going around like sucking the youth out of people so she can stay alive. A pretty standard kind of witch-like story, but it ends with like the most hilarious computer graphic effect where like she misses her chance to suck life out of this person, so she just kind of turns to ash and bone. So it's just hilarious to see her fall on the ground, and then suddenly her model turns into a very, very old person. Her eyes like glow out of the socket, and then she turns to dust. It's like so funny. So even when like an episode is being really, really cheesy, you're usually greeted with some sort of ridiculous CG. But they have an astonishing car destruction budget, Chris, and it is not happening in a computer. It's all happening in the lens right in front of you. They're flipping a car over or exploding it like literally every episode. So I'll give them props for that, because that stuff takes a lot of time to organize. You have to have a lot of safety procedures on set to start blowing stuff up. So props to the Smallville team out there going hard. Even like in season 1, they were flipping cars, blowing them up. So they blew up a shed one episode. So if you're missing some practical explosions, go check out Smallville over on Hulu. Working through beginning of season 2 right now. I just finished watching a sad episode too, so now I need to go back in there and get my hopes back up.
I'm gonna go the other way and tell people you've got better time, better things to do. So don't watch Smallville. People messaged me about last week.
Clark Kent buy his class ring, and the class ring just happens to be made of red kryptonite, which removes his inhibitions, and then he goes to a bar and starts drinking alcohol, but he's just a teenager, and then he starts like throwing bar patrons around and like hitting on girls. It's so funny. It's entertaining, but it's also funny.
So. Just wait till they start stretching those ideas out. But yeah, I do remember it had to have been like maybe mid 2015 or so. They had the Smallville season 11 was a comic book. They didn't do a comic tie-ins beforehand, but that one they did. So I think it's like maybe 21 issues or something like that. You can find it. So they compiled them for everybody. So when you get done, you can go through and watch that because. Like the biggest thing, I mean, I'll not tell you. I'm sure you've already heard of how the show ends, kind of thing. I think that was.
Actually, I was aware of it, but I have luckily forgotten it now.
Yeah, okay.
So if anybody knows exactly how it ends, do not tell me because I have forgotten.
Yeah, that's fine. It's cool. The other thing I'm gonna tap into last year, Mike probably saw me talk about this a lot. There's a Kickstarter for a game called Marvel United. Last year, it's a tabletop thing. It's 2 to 4 players. You get cards and you fight villains. Pretty much. Mike, I showed Mike because the art style is crazy and it's kind of chibi, but it's kind of not art style. And they have like figures for all the models, right? So, Marvel United came out last year. They have probably, I think, if you look at, I think it says on the bottom of this current Kickstarter link here, you can still buy the original ones through Kickstarter because they overprinted. I think there's Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Verse, Asgard, Black Panther, Infinity Gauntlet, Sinister Six, and so on. You can buy that whole bundle in there. And then now they've got an X-Men one, like a whole Kickstarter dedicated to X-Men line. So there's the X-Men, there's Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and there's an X-Men First Class thing so far. But while this is in Kickstarter, the more people who back it, the more money they make, the more stuff you unlock for free, right? So you make your pledge. After a month, depending on how much they've unlocked, you get everything included with that for free. So you could essentially maybe what's the base? I think $60 for the core maybe, or $65. So it comes with the base of 6 characters, 4 villains, but then now they've unlocked 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 heroes and another 7 or 8 villains and anti-heroes. So this game is really easy. It's really fun. The art style is really cool, and I mean, if you're if you're a tabletop person, this is for you. I think games last between 20 to 40 minutes. I've watched some YouTube people play when I got mine in just to make sure I was doing it right. It's very co-op based, so you put down a card, Mike, and then whatever icons on your card, and I play my card next. Your icons are also moves I can do. It's very strategic in what you do throughout everything.
I just think the little figures are cool. Yeah. I'm just scrolling through the Kickstarter right now and just these are just cool little models and stuff. They remind me a little bit of the Q-Fig style, which I talk about on the show once in a while. So just having the little tiny characters would be neat.
So what's cool about this? Some of these are if you look at you see the Phoenix one, I believe in the Kickstarter exclusives. Mm-hmm. I think also it was a Firestar. They had the metal or the clear effects on these new ones now. They're not just the regular models you paint, but you can the little clear effects as well. They've also added this one. I think this new version of X-Men has 5 player abilities, so one person plays as the villain rather than the villain being a passive kind of thing that goes on. So, I think for people who are looking for tabletop things, looking to do things at home more, even though the world is opening back up, sometimes it's fun to stay at home. This is a fun little game that you can do. And if you don't want the X-Men, if you want to go get the regular Marvel ones. The core set's in store, but they have all the expansions down here you can get as well. There's just so many of them, Mike. All these little figures. So just recommend that because that came out. I know Superfan Jim, I believe he got the one with me last year. We just got all that stuff in the mail a couple weeks ago. So excited. All right, let's jump into some news, Mike. This is fun. I like this. You know why? Because Kevin Feige, he's out and about.
He's putting hats on his head.
He is putting hats on his head. I've got a wall full of his hats right behind me, all 5 of them. But he's got a new one coming out. He was on a Zoom call, right? And he's wearing what appears to be a potential icon logo-ish for the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness thing here. So this is the seal of the Vishanti, I believe. I might have written Agamotto or the Sanctum symbol, but it's on the Sanctum's window still, right? We remember that shot from the first movie, but it does the essentially like an animal. It's not animal game. It's the 3D effect. The old 3D, right? Like red to the left, blue to the right kind of thing. And then you put on your glasses and merge it, makes it 3D. So it looks like they're maybe using that effect to showcase how the world's being, like the multiverse is dimensioning off all these variations, it looks like. Looks pretty cool. I mean, what do you think? I know I sent it to you the other day, but I was like, oh.
I just think it's great that Kevin Feige probably has a embroidery person on retainer, and they just follow him around wherever he goes. And he's just like, put that logo on a hat for me. Put that logo on a hat. Put that logo on a hat. I'm going to really mess with people when I put this hat on. It's pretty cool. I mean, I feel like what he kind of signals when he puts these hat on is just like, this is the next thing I'm thinking about, right? This is the thing that I'm currently have my eyes focused on. These are the emails that I'm getting every day. These are like the scripts that I'm reading over.
Well,
these are the notes that I'm polishing off.
It's funny you mentioned that. They're in their last week of filming Doctor Strange 2, he said, when he was wearing this. So they're literally about to wrap principal photography on Doctor Strange 2, which is great, because what was really weird, because I think Captain Marvel 2 and Black Panther 2 are starting production soon, but like in the back half of this year and all of next year, we are going to get crammed full of Marvel superhero content.
And also, it's not even just Marvel too. I saw a schedule floating around of just all of the films that are coming out in the next 2 years, and it's just jam packed. I mean, it's literally just like you take all the movies from one calendar year, and when you have to push them to the next year, everything just gets packed. So, I mean, to sound like an AMC shill, or I guess any movie theater that you go to regularly, if they have like some sort of rewards program or something like that, this is probably the time to start considering signing up for it, because you're probably going to get the most bang for your buck in these next 2 years.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully they will be open and you have theaters near you can get to go to them. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot, but also it's not just, I mean, I literally said Marvel is because also, they're streaming services, right? Like, we've got, more of those coming as they produce them. So I think, film production is ramping up, and we're going to start seeing stuff, in theaters, and the schedule is just crazy to think about. So, really cool, really excited for Doctor Strange 2 and seeing how that goes. The return of Sam Raimi, if you will, to superhero movies. That's I keep associating him with Spider-Man movie, but I'm like, he's not on Spider-Man. He was on Spider-Man, so you gotta get that right. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, their social media channels have updated with their new description, new symbol, and usually that first action means there's probably some more official news coming from these.
That first action means like somebody has officially put that on their plate over at the Disney marketing department. Like, oh, this is my new project. I'm starting Shang-Chi this week, so now I've got to start making a social media post and get this marketing train, running.
Yeah. So usually, they got the logo, the description. So I think we're gonna get some official images of possibly maybe the cast soon in their outfits, maybe some official movie stills, and then. No one said it yet, but I mean, this movie's coming out, I believe, in August or September. So, trailer, man. Trailer soon.
I mean, Black Widow is hitting theaters eventually. Like, we have a solid date, and it would be weird almost going to a Marvel movie without a trailer for the next Marvel movie in front of it, right? So, it's got to be out by then, and even then, that seems like a long time to wait.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think, it would be really weird if they held it till then, because I just looked at September. So July to September is only 2 months, right? So July, August, September. Yeah. Literally 8 weeks of marketing for, what could be another, a tentpole blockbuster. I think we're going to get this like within, I think May would be a good time to get it, maybe June at the latest. So,
I mean, I'm not complaining. The earlier they want to give it to me, the better.
Yeah, we had a Black Widow trailer this month, right? March? Was it March or April when they announced it?
Who knows? I mean, the marketing legacy of Black Widow is going to be totally unpredictable for the future, because it was in such a weird time.
Well, it was March 29th because I put the notes or the date whenever I update the upcoming release page on our website, by the way, superheroslate.com, which would be March, April, May, June, July, 4 months. If we mark that as the official, we are going to be on Disney Plus and theaters July 9th, because they hopefully don't change it, but that feels like a nice flag in the soil kind of thing. So 4 months, that would put 4 months for May would put 4 months for Shang-Chi. So yeah, I think this is great. I think it's a good sign we're going to start seeing stuff soon. action figures are out there with story points. We talked about it last week, so avoid those. Spider-Man No Way Home. Feels weird to say that still. Gonna be honest with you. Alfred Molina out there talking about him being Doc Ock in the film. So this is like making news headlines. So I mean, we knew, this is pretty much confirmation, right? Like, the Raimi and Amazing Spider-Man universes are going to be here in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, I know technically this is a Marvel movie with Sony involved in some aspect, but it does make me wonder if this was just totally 100% just a Feige project from start to beginning. Would there be any chance of anybody being able to keep all of this secret? Because I hope they're not trying to keep it secret in the movie, right? Because I feel like at this point in time, we know all of these characters are going to be in it. So I almost don't want them to be coy in the script or on the screen, because it's just like, I know we're about to see, one of these Raimi Spider-Man characters, because it's been in the news for like the last 2 years. It's been unavoidable. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that they knew that going in, because it would be amazing to live in a universe where all of this was a surprise, but this obviously is not happening.
Well, I don't think they would do it on this scale, but they've been known to show us things that never came true, right?
Yeah.
Marvel will lie and lie to us or tell us they did something or film extra scenes. I believe there was extra scenes they shot for Infinity War and Endgame. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh, if this gets out, we know who was actually leaking it because they were in specific scenes, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be. I mean, I know that they're going to be in there, kind of things.
I mean, I know we haven't seen any word of Willem Dafoe pop up. I'm sure somebody's like run with the theory at some point in time, but that could be a fun reveal. Like, oh, we never heard word of Willem Dafoe popping up as Green Goblin again, but that would be kind of cool. Since obviously Doc Ock is dead canonically in that timeline, so if you're plucking the character from a multiverse, it's going to be at a specific point in time to bring him back, right? Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, does that mean they're going to have to de-age him, or would they really have to do that? Considering the context he might be in, he might just be having goggles, and plus if there's a lot of CG going on, if he's in the suit, they might just be putting his face on a character model anyway. So because if he looks older as accurate to his actor's age, that means he never would have died. But I suppose you could introduce a story element where he crawled out of the ocean, which wouldn't be unbelievable, but last we saw he was straight up dead.
It could be another, it's not exactly the movie universe, there's a variant of that universe even, where Doc Ock didn't die. There's opportunities for them to display. I think the one thing Marvel and Disney have that is by far better than everyone else is de-aging technology. So if they're going to de-age somebody, they already got it. They're like, oh, we got that plug-in. We built it.
It's just a plug-in now.
See Jeff over there? Jeff will take your footage and de-age anyone you want in it. Just tell him how young do you want them?
Well, we saw they take scans of every actor's whether or not they're going to use them or not. Like, what's her face from that 70s show that was in WandaVision? She was like so excited that she got her body scanned, and I don't believe they even used it. So they're like, oh, we might put you in a video game later or something. We just need this body scan.
I think they used it during one of the end scenes where she was powering up with the crowd or whatever, to make the crowd look more full.
Yeah, possibly.
But yeah, like you said, they could. They have high def scans of everybody, whether you're gonna be in here, whether you like it or not. So, yeah, I think it's fun. Alfred Molina, I think he's a great. I think again, Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite pre-MCU superhero movies. Right, I think it's fantastic. I think he'd be a great actor in that. I want to see what they do with him, for sure. Hot news. This is the hottest news we added here, Mike. I added it while we were actually talking before the show. Before we start recording, is for Thor: Love and Thunder. We actually get to see Christian Bale with his shaved head on set for this. He will be playing Gorr the God Butcher, who's like a white, kind of, hairless alien looking dude. So
that is a fresh shaved head.
Yeah,
because it is much paler than the rest of his body, and they are shooting, I'm assuming, outdoors in Australia. So hopefully he's putting some sunscreen on that. That is going to burn. There's a dude in the background that has a SpongeBob t-shirt where it's half SpongeBob, half where you can see his skeleton. And I actually own that figure. It was a Comic-Con exclusive, and I have that SpongeBob in 3D form. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, the photos kind of said that, this is on set, but, that old lady behind him doesn't tell me it's on set unless it's... I don't think they're filming anything. Maybe it's the parking lot for the crew, right? I don't know what's going on here, but It's very much a very very freshly shaped. He's still got like you can see like where his face is like pink and his head's like white from not seeing any sun. But I mean, I'm excited to see him in the makeup.
We're missing the most important detail here. I was told by a much younger generation that cargo shorts were canceled, and he's wearing cargo shorts. So is this Christian Bale saying that we can all start wearing cargo shorts again, and we're allowed to? Maybe this is the most important thing to take away from this news.
I didn't put this at the top of the show, but you know what I watched this week on HBO Max? The Prestige, actually.
Is he wearing cargo shorts in The Prestige?
He was not, but I was like, why have I seen Christian Bale this week?
I feel like you could do a lot. I feel like you could do a lot of sleight of hand if you had cargo shorts. You just have those extra pockets to hide, the coins, red balls, pigeons.
These are very long cargo shorts. He's not even like these are below the knee cargo shorts, Mike. Like this is what like. But I wouldn't look twice. I'm like, that's not Christian Bale.
This is exactly what happens when there's not enough in these pictures.
Yeah.
Except his bald head. We got to start talking about his flannel, his sunglasses, the car he's getting out of. There's like an old Cadillac in the background. Who drove that to set? What's in that lady's purse?
Yeah. This is he's just wearing some regular black slip-on shoes too. Like I don't know. I mean, he's color coordinated. I'll give him that. But
yeah, superheroslate.com. Check out our show notes if you got to see these enticing photos of his bald ass head.
he looks disappointed. It looks like he's about to yell at somebody on set again. Actually, he was very apologetic for that afterwards. He felt bad. So, but anyway, Gorr the God Butcher. You've seen him, right, Mike? You've looked up the character before. Very very slender, very very hairless silver alien. So filling it in. This one's probably the most fun part of the show is looking at these concept arts for the What If show coming up here. 4 of them, I guess 4 panels, which is like 8 shots individually leaked here. And I'm gonna go through them. So I'm gonna click the upper left one. First one is Gamora as essentially Thanos, taking over the Mad Titan's role.
Yeah,
here.
and I think this picture, maybe out of all of them, has maybe the most to say for the story that their episode might be in. Because I'm assuming it's what if Gamora, I don't know.
Took over Thanos' role,
Yeah, so maybe she, one of the few times that she snapped under his control and decided to fight back before she joins the Guardians actually succeeded. And then she was kind of maybe left with this empire and took up the armor, so...
Yeah, she's got the big helicopter blade sword in the background, like the golden armor. Looks really cool. Yeah. The one to the right is Loki. It doesn't look very different, unless that's not Loki in the helmet.
Yeah, is it Matt Damon possibly?
Yeah, maybe it could be. I mean, is that is this actually Tom Hiddleston's version of Loki, or is this another character being Loki?
Or maybe this is just saying, maybe this is potentially that Loki is going to be popping up maybe in Gamora's story. I don't know if there's anything to take away from that. I mean, they both have those bright orange circles behind them, but orange is a complementary color to green, so maybe that's the only reason why it's behind both of them.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. So that's the first one. I can't tell much. I mean, the Gamora one's, oh my god, that's killer, that's stellar. The next one, I think I'm actually going to say probably has more information for us than you think. This is Ultron, wearing a cape, and it looks like he has a spear from Wakanda. Like it looks like Wakanda attire, but he has the Infinity Stones in his chest.
I mean, I'm looking at this one for the second time, and I'm getting more out of this one now. It looks like this is not so much Ultron as this is a suit of armor, and I think in the first shot we see a red face. This could be Vision inside of an armor based on Ultron's body.
Or what if it's the Destroyer armor, is put into Ultron's body?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm getting this anime vibe of Esclaflowne, which is like another mech anime where everything's kind of based around like a medieval mecha, and this kind of gives me that vibe. It looks really really cool. Like this is badass. I'd love to have this as a figure.
Yeah, I didn't see the Infinity Stones when I first looked, but when you look closely, you're like, oh, they're all on his chest now. Or at least 4 of them.
I think I'm only seeing 2. I think I'm just seeing green and possibly blue.
Well, there's blue and purple beside each other. So it goes yellow, green, and then purple, blue. On the one I'm looking up here.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if those 2 closer to his neck are just like beam, like just hits of light, or if it's stones. It's hard to tell.
Maybe he doesn't have them all.
These are basically like cell phone pictures of a monitor. So there's not a whole lot of fidelity of detail here.
Yeah. I think I would make sense that he is not able to get the Soul Stone because he's a robot. Couldn't get a Soul Stone. But I think also, I think the things that I take out, this looks like Wakanda armor, like, right? Like what the Dora Milaje wear, like the cape and the spear.
Maybe it could be.
And if he's made of vibranium, who knows? So there's a lot. I mean, we don't know. This is fun. We're doing what ifs for the what ifs, Mike. And that's crazy. The next one's a little lower resolution. It's the Collector wearing his big furry coat and looks to be like maybe some robotic supports around him.
He's pimped out. I don't know. Maybe this is just kind of like his intergalactic kind of jewelry that we don't get to see. This might be less of a what if for the Collector and more of somebody else's what if story, and then the Collector just happens to be in it.
I believe I've already the Collector is in one of the earlier trailers. It's the same animation style as if Black Panther T'Challa was Star-Lord. So I think he's gonna be part of that one as well.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
But definitely a lot more muscular and badass looking than Benicio del Toro's character in the movie. And lastly, we get a Hulkbuster armor here. At first glance, it looks like a regular Hulkbuster, but there seems to be yellow and blue mixed in with this. And so who's in the driver's seat? Is that Tony? Is that is that Bruce, or is that Doctor Strange even?
Yeah, like if you're going off the blur, it kind of looks like Doctor Strange, just because I feel like I'm seeing
like the hair part,
bit of a goatee, and a part. But I feel like if it was Doctor Strange, maybe we would be able to identify more kind of maybe spiritual markings. But I don't know. This seems to be kind of a hodgepodge of different armor. So I'm guessing the story is going to inform why this kind of looks like it's patched up together. If it was Bruce Banner, I feel like the story might be a little less exciting, of just like, oh, what if Bruce Banner decided not to be the Hulk anymore? And it's just like, well, I feel like you should go a little bit bigger and more fantastical if you're doing an animated what if,
Well, the other thing I want to add is, the front of his chest looks like a face, like an animal face, and it looks like he has claws on his hands. So is this maybe like a Wakanda, like a panther-based suit? Does it transform?
Kind of see it. Is that Martin Freeman in the in the?
Well, that could be Bucky.
So, yeah, maybe he'd have to part his hair a little bit. But I don't know. It's a cool set of armor. No matter who's piloting.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of goes to prove we're getting these small details, right? We're extrapolating. We want to see the show. We want to know what this is doing because again, one of our favorite things here is theorizing about Marvel. And what is going on here. So this is essentially, early previews of that show, and I'm really excited to see that show kind of catch up here. So, but the orange circles. Now you mentioned the orange circles. We have Loki, Gamora, and the Collector with the bright orange circles. Maybe they're all part of that Star-Lord T'Challa episode.
Maybe.
So awesome. All right, well, take a look at that in our show notes. I'll take you to Twitter. The Mandalorian. You remember that show?
Yeah, that little gem.
Yeah, back when we were getting that. Apparently, the actors, including Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan, was told that the surprise Jedi at the end of season 2 was Plo Koon when they were filming. Do you remember him, that Jedi?
I remember the Jedi, but I don't remember seeing him in season 2.
Well, he wasn't. It was Luke Skywalker. That's how they hid. It was Luke Skywalker, so it wouldn't leak that it was him at the end of it.
I see what you're saying. I mean, technically, don't we see Plo Koon die in Order 66?
Well, we see his ship blow up. We've seen the Emperor come back, man. I mean, at this point, Star Wars is
I suppose surviving a ship explosion would be more realistic because in Order 66 we do literally see some of them gunned down, there's no material in between them and death. Right. So I could theoretically see Plo Koon still being alive.
Yeah, well, Plo Koon's also Dave Filoni's favorite Jedi. That's why he was
he was one of my favorite too in the prequel kind of series, favorite incarnation. He kind of had this cool kind of stoic kind of mindset. he was almost kind of like old school Jedi in his kind of mannerisms and stuff, unshaken. You know,
he was like he's the one who found Ahsoka, right? I think as well. So like he was like her, not necessarily like a mentor, like a
yeah, it's kind of like a Padawan situation.
Yeah, a little, yeah. But also Plo Koon's one of my favorite Jedi. He's one of the 3 Star Wars Funkos I own. Because if you ever played the PlayStation 1 game Jedi Power Battles, he actually had an orange lightsaber before they actually determined that everyone has to have, blue or green, and then Samuel L. Jackson gets purple. And I was like, oh, that's cool. This is an orange lightsaber, dude. He's gonna be my favorite from now on, like, kind of thing. So, I think that's a funny thing that they were, again, they have to lie to actors to keep secrets from not spilling out for a show. Again, we talked about like, the CGI for that means like, it looks like they did the day before, right? Like, hey, your project's due at 8 a.m. Hurry up, get this done. But like, you can't tell anybody you're working on it either, kind of thing. But that's funny. The actors didn't even know who it was. They just had to react to somebody being there. So moving on, the trailer, our second trailer, full trailer, whatever we're going to call it, for Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead dropped this week. Gives us a little more story. Looks like there's like, the world is kind of, it's not normal, but people are living in the world normally unafraid of the zombies. Looks like they've walled them off to specific cities, including Vegas. And their goal is to go in and break open a safe and bring money back from Vegas. And there's a zombie tiger in this trailer. I mean,
yeah. I mean, this trailer is a little bit better than the first one. I was pretty down on the first one. It didn't look very exciting. This one got me a little bit more excited, but I don't know. I mean, Dave Bautista, great. We're excited for that. There's some other actors in here that I'm excited to see, but it just kind of looks.
Notaro.
Yeah, she was added after the fact, so we'll see how awkward her scenes actually are, and see how well it integrates. See how well that works. But I think the second bit of news here might be a little bit more of an indication of. Looks like you have prequel.
So they've actually been working on this prequel. They've actually, since last fall, apparently. We just missed it because I'm not looking up Army of Thieves when I'm doing our notes here. But they're filming a prequel movie called Army of Thieves about like some of these people's lives before they got into this movie. Along the way.
I mean, is that a good faith project on the fact that the screenplay for the Army of Dead was like so strong that they wanted to see more of the world, or is this more of Zack Snyder just had so much mojo going with the the Snyder cut and everything that they're like, oh, let's just get more Zack Snyder on Netflix. If they can't quite get the people to stay subscribed to HBO Max because there's no more Justice League stuff being released, maybe they'll come over to the Netflix because we have his zombie world that they're building. I mean, I don't know. I'll watch it because I don't have to drop a movie ticket to go check it out. But yeah, the zombie tiger was like cool. It was all right. It still kind of just seems a little too cheesy to me, and not in a good way. But I will wait to render my verdict.
It's gonna be gratuitous. This is again Zack Snyder. Like I said, he's sacrificing a scene for a cool action shot, and this movie is just full of action shots. So. I don't think we're going to come to love or care for many of these mercenary characters, but like it looks to be like there's several shots of them standing in a circle firing at zombies running at them and like very well outnumbered. I'm like, what's your game plan here? Like, how are you going to get them out of these scenarios? Because it just looks like they're hopeless. I think it'd make a great video game, like a Left 4 Dead style kind of game where you're running through zombie infested cities and you're just mowing them down like a bullet hell kind of game.
Yeah, it seems like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead might be kind of required watching before you go into this. Like, I don't think it's specifically supposed to be a sequel, but I mean, if the director's already done, a zombie movie, I think you got to check it out. So I think I'll probably have to finally watch it to kind of get a full picture.
I enjoyed the first Dawn of the Dead. Actually, I remember watching it 04, 05. But it is, again, a remake of George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And it was also, I always say it's written by James Gunn, so really really cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you it's not streaming right now unless you have AMC Plus, which I'm sure not a lot of people have AMC Plus, but there's a chance you might have it through if you're already like a cable subscriber. Maybe that's there. I don't know, but you can rent it for $4. It looks like. So.
Yeah, it'll probably move to Netflix next month.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea to put all those together.
Probably put them there, and then I believe, what was is there like an anime show for this as well? They announced late last
of
or
course,
last year.
That's a classic Netflix of everything has an anime compendium.
Yes, so apparently the anime will see the origin of Dave Bautista's character, and like his like how he apparently. He rescues mankind, which he mentions kind of in the trailer a little bit, like we rescued everybody kind of thing. I don't know, but the other show, Army of Thieves, follows the character Ludwig, who I don't even know who the actor is who's playing him, but he's like not the. I was hoping Army of Thieves would be another Dave Bautista led movie. It's not. It's somebody else. So we'll see about that. Apparently, the Army of Thieves is also finished filming. I didn't know this. They finished filming in December. So anyway. Looks like we'll see what that movie looks like come May. Don't have to do anything else. Speaking of Zack Snyder, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. There were some interviews going around this week about other alternate titles for this, from the writers. Like I think Chris Terrio, we're gonna call Batman v Superman Son of Sun and Night of Night, and these are actually Sun SON and then Night KNIT, and then Night is in nighttime, and I'm like. This is exactly why you don't let the writers name the movie. Like,
well, I mean, is this basically now kind of confirmation that Justice League originally was planned to be 2 movies? Because it makes sense because the first one might be called Son of Sun, then Night of Night, and then, like you have down here another one.
Well, Justice League, this was the title they wanted to call Justice League when they were working on it at the time. Was Justice League Foundations or Justice League Rising?
Foundations is such a bad name.
Yeah. So I don't like either of these. They sound like Matrix spinoffs you don't want to watch, right? Like Revolutions and is it Revolutions and what's Reloaded.
I love also how it just totally shows you how quick that this whole universe was trying to catch up to what the MCU is doing by just calling it like, oh, well, it's a Justice League movie, but technically they aren't all together yet, so they're not quite the Justice League yet. So we should probably call it Justice League Rising. It's just like, oh, well, when Marvel was making their movies, they just made those movies before they put the Avengers. They never had to do an Avengers Rising because they went ahead and they made all of the other movies.
And then Avengers was them
first.
And then Avengers was them getting together, kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
I believe they name drop the Avengers in like an end credit scene early on, like maybe Iron Man 2 or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's the writers. I mean, Chris Terrio, Zack Snyder. They look like they had some bold ideas, but God, I mean, I'll take Dawn of Justice over Son of Sun and Night of Night any day of the week. So, speaking of the DC movies, Batman stuff, the Gotham show is according to the director of the Batman, is going to be a James Gordon show instead of what we call Gotham Central. Or
so
Gotham
it
PD.
sounds like what Fox was airing for what, like five or six seasons? How long did that Gotham show go for?
Yeah.
And I think that was what it was. It was a James Gordon show. So I guess they're just like, let's make it again, but with more money and connect it to a movie universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 5 seasons. Yeah, you're right. 5 seasons. 100 episodes. The Gotham, the TV show. Wow.
Hey, they're syndicated.
Yeah, just in time. If syndication was even a thing anymore. But no, they just stream it now, Mike. Yeah, I think this is, what's his name? The guy who's voicing the Watcher.
Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright, yeah. He's supposed to be, he's playing James Gordon in the thing. They've not kind of clarified if this is a prequel or sequel again yet, but I mean, it sounds like it's just going to be a show for him rather than actually like focusing on the police department dealing with Batman being around.
I mean, Jeffrey Wright seems at home at HBO, so everything sounds like it's a good idea here. But, it's just a whole nother thing of just like, oh, another Batman show without Batman. Great.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we care about Gotham as a whole without Batman. We don't. I'm just gonna cut that short. So yeah, Gundam, the one we've been waiting for, the one we talked so heavily at the top of the show. Director Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who did Kong Skull Island, one of his more recent movies, will direct this live action film for Netflix. There's hundreds of Gundam to choose from here. Like, let's be honest here. There are dozens of shows, right? My guess is going to be the original.
Yeah, I guess it kind of just depends on where you want to start, what you want to adapt. I think a lot of our generation really connected to Gundam Wing, just because that was the first kind of Gundam show to really heavily play on Toonami, probably the first Gundam franchise to really make way here in the United States.
And also, it had no history. It's not connected to the other shows, so you didn't have to watch like dozens of seasons or series to get there.
And I'm sure that there's huge Gundam fans that will say the characters that are in all of these stories are very important to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is these Gundam is almost a lot like Final Fantasy in a way of just like kind of every season, not every season, but kind of every little offshoot of Gundam is just like totally different characters, a totally different environment, a totally different origin of like what Gundams are and what they're there for. So they're constantly being reinvented and remade. And just the design of the Gundams just extrapolate, all over the place. They get pointier, they get shinier, they're controlled different inside of the in the cockpit. So if you're really kind of connecting to the spirit of what Gundam is, Jordan Vogt-Roberts here could make literally whatever he wants, because if you were just spinning up a brand new Gundam show right now, you would just create your own origin. You would create your own lore, and you would just do whatever you want with these big robots. So there's no specific reason why they would have to go with a show that, an anime that already exists, because, that's a big criticism already in Western Hollywood that, we can't adapt anime to save our lives. So maybe just move forward with the idea, of the big Gundam. I was looking this up that, what did I say earlier this week? Brian K. Vaughan is writing this movie?
Yeah, I think he's part of the team with it or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was looking it up because I was more familiar with him of writing, very good comic books. And I looked in the past, and you kind of have to decipher his IMDb a little bit, because it'll say he wrote something, but really it's just this TV show property is just adapting some of his work. But he did write for Lost, I believe, at some point in time. So he was sitting down writing screenplays for Lost, and now we're kind of jumping forward to now he's writing a feature for Gundam. So I that's pretty cool. I would like to see what Brian K. Vaughan could do with a film script. So that might be really fun. But yeah, we talked about how much we loved Gundam. Big Mech's work. Pacific Rim, that first movie was great. Don't go Pacific Rim Uprising. You go Pacific Rim 1.
Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, that's true. Mecha Godzilla. The first thing I think most people would say, like, oh, Jordan Roberts makes sense because he can direct something with scale, because Kong was a big old monkey. So that could be working in his favor there. Yeah. So
hopefully
we'll
Netflix.
See how that goes.
This is on Netflix. Hopefully they give them the budget to do it. I think Netflix movies can be good. They sometimes can be bad. I think based on that. So hopefully he's also just he was the director we talked about for the upcoming Metal Gear Solid movie.
Oh yeah. So like you can definitely tell he has a nerdy attraction to that. I wonder where that Metal Gear Solid project stands then, right? Because is he going to be working on this concurrently? Is this something he's going to be hopping on as soon as he's done with Metal Gear, or is Metal Gear just like taking a really long time to get going? Because usually when Netflix announces something, they're not just like they're not out there getting ahead of it really early. Like, there's examples where Netflix drops a trailer for a show that you didn't even know was happening, and then it comes out 2 weeks later. So we might be seeing this Gundam movie before we even see his Metal Gear adaptation.
Yeah, I just pulled up here because I was referring back to it. Sony, like Deadline, mentioned Vogt-Roberts for Metal Gear in 2014. So like they've been working on this movie since 2014, 2015. So who knows when Sony's going to get that done. But they did say the draft of the script is complete in 2019, and Oscar Isaac, remember, was cast as Solid Snake. So they we might do them pretty close together, film them back to back a little bit. I think Gundam's an interesting thing. If you're like, oh, I'm gonna dive into Gundam, it's not easy. I'm gonna straight up tell you it's not easy. Because there's like there was a video games like Side Fighting. It was like Gundam fighting game or something like that. Like imagine Mortal Kombat but Gundams, right? Not nearly as good. So I didn't know who any of the original characters were in the Mobile Suit Gundam line from the 80s, because I'm like, I don't know who Char Aznable is. Like, who the hell are these characters? But I found out, because I was like, I know Gundam Wing. Give me the wing. Give me the Epion. Give me that kind of stuff. But apparently there's like 8 different timelines, so you just pick your timeline you want to stick in and just watch all the stuff from there.
I mean, you could just be totally reductive and say pretty much every Gundam protagonist is just an anime boy, right? That just, wants to be a soldier, but he has emotional problems.
And only he can pilot the suit.
Yeah, I think the single hardest thing to do with live action Gundam, which is something you don't really have to broach too much in an animated world, just because, your suspension of disbelief is already kind of a little bit more flexible when you're watching something animated. But in a real grounded live action world, you have to explain why big robots have to exist to begin with. In Pacific Rim Uprising, it made sense because they had to fight these adversaries that were coming from another dimension. They were big monsters, and they were shooting nukes and all types of projectiles at them, and it just wasn't doing anything. So they were just like, we have to grapple with these monsters. Now, you could sit down and be a physicist and be like, well, if a nuke's not blowing these things up, a robot fist isn't really going to do anything. But at least they offered some sort of explanation, right? So you're going to have to kind of come up with that explanation of just like, there's no monsters in Gundam, or at least I think in the majority of the Gundam universes, there's no sort of big monsters that they ever fight. It's just humans versus humans.
Yeah.
So it's just like in our world, the escalation of the arms race is nuclear weapons. You just keep building and building more and more and more, and you just threaten them with each other. At some point in time, if a country just built a giant robot to attack you, wouldn't you just shoot a big missile at it? and then it would be done and over with? So they'll have to kind of find a way to suspend their disbelief.
I believe if you watch the original, it's the Gundams, like there's only a few Gundams made, right? Like everyone has like their own little mech suits that you see, like essentially the nobodies, the little people get wiped out by the Gundams. Like I think it's like what Gundanium alloy is like very rare, so that's why they can't make a lot of them. Like,
I do kind of remember like Gundanium being a word.
Yeah, they're like, and that could only be wing. Again, someone's probably yelling at me.
But then at the same time, you just build a missile with Gundanium alloy at the end of it, right? And you just shoot it at the big robot.
And that's fine. But I think also the thing was like, this was like space war. They were like, okay, this is humans versus humans. So like, I think there's like all Gundam shows are about the consequences of war. But with big robots. So
now that could be an interesting idea, because I think in some of the earlier Gundam shows, space isn't much of a play, but in the Gundam Wing one, it was big space. It was about like the space colony versus Earth, these people that live in orbit that have just a totally different way of life than the people down on the planet. Now I could kind of imagine a future of our own world where maybe mech robots are a thing, right, in space. Maybe you kind of need like a human analog that's giant floating around in space to maybe work on and construction, maybe build space stations, and maybe some sort of weaponized robot comes out of that. I don't know. This is going to be a problem that not necessarily Roberts has to solve. This is a problem that maybe Brian K. Vaughan has to solve, which he could. I mean, I was reading his issues of Saga for a while. I've kind of fell off, but he has a very creative mind. So if anyone can solve that problem, I think he could figure it out.
I think one of the other things they could do, since it's Netflix, make their own series, right? This movie is our telling of Gundam, right? And then also create an anime to tie into it afterwards. Like literally like, oh, hey, we've actually made Gundam movie. We didn't base it on anything except our own, new Gundam world. And now we're making anime based on our movie kind of thing. Reverse it. Like, how they would normally create a live action, what they're doing with Cowboy Bebop over there on Netflix, right? Like we're creating a live action version of the popular anime. Well, we have too many Gundams to choose from. Let's pick what works and then make an anime from there. So
I hope we get an action figure out of it.
We will.
We're gonna get some toys.
That Bandai booth was so huge at at Comic-Con, right? Like, you remember all those models there? People were line buying them for hundreds of dollars, if not more. So love it. Awesome. Indiana Jones 5. They are still threatening us with this, Mike. After the Kingdom of the, or was it? Is it the Crystal Skull? It's not Kingdom, is it? Maybe.
I don't know if it's just called Crystal Skull or if there's a couple more words before that.
Yeah. Either way, that's how much we remember it, because we remember the title. They've added actor Mads Mikkelsen to the cast.
Love Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah,
he's a spooky. I mean, it's hard to imagine him being a good guy in anything that he's cast in.
Rogue One.
Yeah, but he kind of was. He did have like a bad side to him.
Yeah.
Though, because he went to go work for the Empire. So the best he can do is like a neutral gray area, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's in that new movie with Tom Holland and the chick from Star Wars, where like the men's minds can be read or whatever.
Oh God,
Chaos
I know
Walking.
I know that movie has had like a crazy production history on it. So
yeah,
who knows if that's going to be any good?
Yeah, and he's also in another movie though recently, where his comedy, where he's in his old age and he does this experiment where he just gets drunk all day, like he tries to stay constantly drunk, like working and like going through life drunk. It's apparently very big in
sounds like an
regions.
alcoholic.
Yeah. But like it was like he was doing it as an experiment kind of thing, like the actor or the character. But
they also added Phoebe Waller-Bridge to Indiana Jones 5, who's most well known for winning literally every Emmy like the other year for her show Fleabag, which is a really great show. So I don't know what aspect you add her to the movie. Like
is it Indiana Jones' daughter?
I mean, maybe. I mean, as much as we like her in our household, it's hard to imagine her as an action, star in any way. Because I keep thinking everything about Indiana Jones 5 to me is either you kill the franchise from here, you never make another one, or you hand over the mantle, right? That just seems like a thing that Disney would want to do, right? You don't kill a franchise.
They
not
tried.
with the money that they're trying to print.
They tried to with Mutt in the last one. Remember?
Yeah, well, they'll try. They'll threaten. They'll threaten with us again.
I think end it here and reboot the goddamn thing, because he's been fighting Nazis for 40 years, right?
I mean, really, a good strategy seems like, you do end the franchise. You kind of do a Logan-esque send-off for Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford. I mean, you don't have to kill him. You don't have to bury him in the woods with rocks on the top of him in an unmarked grave like Logan. But, you end the franchise, and then you wait maybe like 4 years. They would probably only wait 2.5 to announce something, though. And then you just do a Disney Plus like premium Indiana Jones series where he's like a teenager, right? Where he's just learning the ropes. And then that's kind of where you start things off again. Because they have adapted younger Indiana Jones, but not in any sort of like real serious way. So people would be less, quote unquote butthurt if they went back to a younger Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think well, also you can modernize. I mean, I think the first ones are great. You don't need to change them. You can start it over again. But like, he was again literally fighting Nazis, right? Like or they take place.
Chris,
in the
we
50s.
need more Nazi fight. We can't start laxing on the Nazi fighting content. We need more of it.
Yeah, but modern Nazis. We're fighting modern Nazis.
Well, I guess that is kind of the the depressing part about it, right?
Yeah,
you can put them in any decade. There's always a Nazi to fight.
Yeah. Also, just to add to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she is the voice of K2SO, or not K2SO, L337 in Solo, the robot.
I totally forgot that.
Yes.
Wow.
So 2 Star Wars alum there, and then she's also actually worked on the upcoming James Bond screenplay, No Time to Die, which has actually had plenty of time to die. Come to find out, they've delayed it so much. July 29th, 2023 release, so they got to start filming this movie soon, Mike. If they don't, Harrison Ford's going to kill himself either through an airplane crash or
no. Okay, accidentally. Okay.
Yeah, accidentally. Yeah, not like that. Like he or maybe one of his little earrings will get caught in a magnet or something, and
it's like Papa Ford just bought a helicopter. He wants to learn how to fly it. Like, oh god.
No. All right. Last bit of part of our news, we had the what we're watching, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 5, the penultimate episode, if you will. Here,
second to last. I think
kicked off again. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you're listening now, this is your own fault. I mean, I'm happy it literally picked up where the last one ended, because I'm like, I hope they don't do like some sort of time jump, and then like figure it out. But like, I'm glad they went right into the fight scene in the warehouse there around the corner. I will say the only thing I wanted more was I wanted to see the Winter Soldier side of Bucky come out more, because I remember how awesome the fight scenes in the Winter Soldier were. Like where he literally punched the shield Steve had, right? Like in the street fight. I'm like, oh, I want that fight scene back. But overall, I'm glad they broke his arm. I think that was a pretty big thing. I was hoping they'd finish him off there, but they didn't. Any thoughts on that fight scene at the end there, at the start? I mean, that's how they kicked the whole show off.
I mean, just in general, I feel like this episode was a little bit more positive for me. You know, if you've been listening week to week, I've been Debbie Downer about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. At least this episode brought a little bit more range into the characters of the show. You know, we get to see more sides of each character. Watching them struggling over the shield in the kind of this first scene, I think probably maybe the biggest takeaway is that it seems like Bucky just like straight up does not want this shield, because once they kind of vanquish the new Captain America, John, Bucky very much just drops the shield right on Sam's foot.
Yeah, I think, you know, the other thing I think is going to pay off in this last episode is they haven't explicitly said John took the soldier serum yet. I think that they're going to either say that he did the next episode, or it's going to be something to do with the power broker, who will probably get revealed in the next one. Like, hey, you know, we want to enhance your already strength or something like that. I think that because he was able to keep up pretty well. And like, yeah, he took it, but they didn't show us. They didn't tell us that yet. So like, why are they holding back on that so far?
I think it's just because in the episode before this, episode 4, they telegraphed it so ineloquently. Like, they just, like, everyone was basically just like, oh, are you gonna take it? Oh, I would take it if I had it. Oh, we're gonna literally show you. And then he just, even like, they ham-fistedly have him say like, they weren't even super soldiers, when he's like bending over, like trying to like catch his breath. And it's just like, okay, it's obvious to me that he has taken the serum, because it wasn't very well crafted.
The other thing is, you know, maybe he has been given some by the power broker. They'll reveal that like he's already been enhanced, and he's keeping that vial as leverage to give back to the power broker. Like, look, I saved your formula, kind of thing. Like, there's something going on here, and I think we'll get it in the next episode. But
I think overall, I think one of the things that I don't like what this show is doing specifically is with the superhero serum, if you will. Because I like that previously through the MCU, this serum was so difficult to get a hold of and so difficult to get right. You know, if you were lucky enough not to die from it, you basically ended up just going crazy or being a villain, or no one could control you, so they literally had to freeze you in a tube because they didn't know how to fix you. You know, we see Steve Rogers get it. They had to shut down all the electric grid for Brooklyn just to get it to work. And that's why it's so important that just one little vial, if it gets stolen, who knows what could happen to it, and they got to chase it down. You have to move heaven and earth just to stop one vial. And in this show, just kind of with just one line of exposition from a scientist that ends up ultimately dying at the end of the scene, and we're never going to see again anyway, just says like, oh yeah, we can just make more of it now. They kind of explained it. I don't even really remember what the explanation was, but he's just like, oh, I modernized it. It's better now. Now anyone can take it, and they don't even get buff when they take it. So it's just kind of like they've kind of taken all of the impact of the serum existing away, right? Because it's like when John took the serum, I was just kind of like, okay, he took it. I mean, there's like 5 other people literally in the show right now running around with the serum. So when I look at John and he has these powers, I don't think he's special in any way. I mean, he's almost just as deranged as maybe some of these other people are that have it. Yeah. You know, like, so the impact just isn't there. And when there was just one vial left and he took it, I also didn't care either, because I was like, the show has already showed us that all you have to do is just track down another mad scientist and they can just make more of it. So I just feel like the impact of the superhero or the super soldier is just kind of done. Like the cat's out of the bag, but it not in a particularly interesting way. It just seems like any time one could just pop up and they just got to go vanquish it, I guess.
I'm still, I mean, that's a big assumption that he took it. I'm still going to say that he's not taking it until they show us. I'm just going to lean the other way.
I mean, how would you explain all of the super stuff he's done so far since when he supposedly was taking it?
There is probably some, I mean, again, this is going to tie into the Isaiah Bradley thing. Maybe the government already enhanced him in some way.
I mean, maybe in a more eloquently crafted show, I could see them pulling off like a fake like that, but I just don't see what the reward in episode 6 would be of just like, oh, you were powerful all along. Or,
well, you know. I think we're gonna see. There's still something left. I'm not gonna assume he took it yet. I mean, I think it's probably safe to say he did, but I'm just gonna hold out until the end of it, because, you know, like how everyone on WandaVision was, you know, 100% sure that mutants were crossing over. I'm not gonna say anything until the end of this one. either. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is one of my favorite shows is Seinfeld, and we actually got to see Julie Louis-Dreyfus actually in this.
Oh yeah, that was surprising. We were told this episode we were gonna get this brand new kind of top tier Marvel character, and I wasn't familiar with who the character was.
Yes,
personally myself.
Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. The
De la Tour d'Autrive. That just makes me think of King of the Hill.
Yeah, the longest name ever. So in the comic books, her story is she is a loyal Shield ally to Nick Fury, right? Comic book Nick Fury, forever. And then come to find out later, she was just a Russian sleeper agent kind of thing who got activated. And she became part of a supergroup called Leviathan. Leviathan is one of my favorite villain groups. It's in the book called Secret Warriors, where there's like 4 or 5 people, like a I guess a cabal of like evil leaders who are there. They're kind of Hydra based, but like they kind of split off from Hydra. So I think she is possibly maybe building the Thunderbolts. Maybe they're building an evil villain team to kind of come together with this. She gave him a blank card, which is interesting. I don't know what the black and white card does yet, but she has a very rich history in the spy world of the Marvel comic books. And Leviathan, which with Hydra kind of being out of the picture, has been for 7 actual years, however many Marvel years it is. I think that'd be a suitable replacement for a villain group in the MCU.
I mean, they're definitely putting consideration into it if they're hiring somebody like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, because she's a heavy hitter. I mean, if we were talking about Phoebe Waller-Bridge winning all of those Emmys for Fleabag, before all of those Emmys were going to Veep, which was a show that she was historically in for a really, really long time. And also, I mean, I don't know if this really even necessarily matters because it hasn't stopped her from acting before, but she's from an incredibly rich lineage family. Yeah. So this is the type of person that doesn't have to take a project if they don't want to take it. We always talk about like, oh, actors like being really happy to get this Marvel money. Like she had that money before like, Disney ever bought them to begin with. So it is interesting. If she wants to be in it, she must really like the role. I spotted she had a little bit of purple hair, right?
Yes, that's part of the character's thing.
I figured. I was like, she's got to be somebody special, because they don't just introduce a character in the MCU with like a little bit of colored hair if it's not supposed to be there. So yeah, I'm a little curious where this goes.
Do you want to know a fun fact about this?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Her introduction here is the first casualty of everything being rearranged due to COVID.
Oh, why's that? Is she? Do you think she's supposed to be in Black Widow?
She either is supposed to be or was. I don't know if they'll take her out. I don't know if they'll even put her in. But this character's name, not the actress, was very, very like we're like, oh, we have her in the script. We have her. She'll be in the movie, kind of thing. So when they said the name, I'm like, she's not supposed to be here yet. This isn't what I. So I don't know if she'll be in Black Widow, but if they do, that'll be great.
I mean, this could lead credence to the fact why they put WandaVision out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, possibly, because, if things still go well, maybe we can get Black Widow out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. I would imagine if she is supposed to originally premiere in Black Widow,
the impact would have been bigger.
Yeah, it seems like there's no reason not to keep her in Black Widow, right? Because it doesn't like spoil Black Widow in any way, right? So I could see her still being in that. One thing that a fan of the show, Chris, he sent me some of these kind of like breakdown videos for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And usually I'm not a big fan of video essays because I think a lot of people who analyze this stuff go a little too deep. But there was something that did stand out to me where that there could be a possible cut storyline from Falcon and the Winter Soldier that deals with a virus in some way, which usually, I wouldn't think too much about that stuff, but it would make a little bit of a sense because a big complaint that I had, I think in like episode 1 or 2 was these flag smashers steal a bunch of vaccines and we don't know what the hell they're for. There's never a follow-up. We never see what what happens to them. So
all these people are dying for no reason, right? Like whenever she, like the was it the Danya character, died, right? That's where they found her. Like
the woman in the veil.
But there was a dozen people in sick beds. dozens. So like I'd heard about this like when they were filming, like, oh, there's like an actual virus, and I thought, you know, when they were doing that, the virus was causing people to get powers, not killing them, kind of thing, like or it was related together. So I think, you know, I agree, like, you know, this was probably delayed to recut some of this and refilm some of this,
and I'm really curious. And I'm curious if that would explain why that they're refugees to begin with, because one thing that's really confusing in this story that they're building is that when everybody came back from the blip, they came back exactly where they vaporized from, right? Like we saw in WandaVision, they reconstituted themselves right inside like the hospital, like where they were before. So it's not like they're being moved around, being put back where they're not supposed to be. So when they're saying all these refugees are displaced, that means that they came back and then somebody decided to move them. So it's like, well, why did all these people get moved? You know, I suppose if somebody comes back from being dusted and somebody bought their house and now somebody's living there, you might be displaced, but I feel like you wouldn't be moved to a totally different country. Like you would still be like in the same neighborhood at least. You know, I suppose there could be outlier stories where some people get really screwed and they have to move like all around the planet, but they're talking about this on a mass scale. Like these huge groups of people are getting dislocated and put into camps, but no one's explaining it to you at all. So, but I do feel like if the narrative was supposed to follow around like a blip virus that like is specifically affecting people that are being blipped, that seems like too big and too consequential to remove from the script. Like that would just totally destroy your story. So it just seemed like we're like, well, we kind of have this virus subplot that we could probably take out. You know, it might affect the story a little bit, but I feel like if it was supposed to be a much bigger thing, it would literally affect everything, and they would have no choice except to leave it in.
I think it is affecting the motivations for the Flag Smashers, right? Like we're like, why are they doing this, right? Like what's going on? I think I've never heard. I mean, I knew about the virus storyline, you know, when they were doing this year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but like I never heard it was affecting the people who were just blipped. That was new. But I because I think that that doesn't make any sense, because the Mama Danya character or whatever, she wasn't blipped. She was there the whole time. So that wouldn't make any sense. But I think whenever we get to watch the making of, I want to see if they acknowledge that point of this show, right? Yeah. Like what's going on? Why are people everywhere, you know, dying, and what's going on?
It would be interesting, because the single worst part of this show to me is the Flag Smashers. They seem to have like no motivation, or it's just very vague. Are they mad at corporations? Are they mad at states? It just kind of seems to boomerang back and forth, and there's just nothing clear going on there. Now, I am very curious what is in the suitcase for Sam. I thought it was maybe going to be just a pair of like vibranium wings, but then my wife said like, oh, maybe it's an entire suit. I was like, oh, well, that'd be kind of cool. I'd love to, you know, we know me, I love suit reveals, and you know, this isn't the CW, so they're not going to spoil it for me on a social media promo image, so I'm going to have to wait until Friday to see what this thing is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the suit. I'm pretty sure Bucky would be like, can I get a Captain America thing kind of suit made for him? And it'll probably be with vibranium wings this time. That can't be like pulled apart kind of thing. I'm excited to see. I know that I've avoided these. Thankfully, there are action figures of different suited versions. I don't know if they're like toys or if they're actually like from the show. Because you know how the toys they'll like with, you know, rocket firing backpacks, and like he didn't have a rocket firing backpack. He's Captain America. Like, what are you talking about? So I don't know if like there will be more suits or not, but I'd love to see them, like, you know, even Bucky get an upgraded suit as well.
I think maybe in a more sophisticated show, this wouldn't bother me so much, but I am trying to think, what favor does Wakanda owe Bucky at this point in time? If I look at the relationship between Wakanda or AO and Bucky, they have done nothing but things for Bucky, and it seems like he's just been kind of sponging off of them. So when he said he needed a favor, I was just like, well, you're the one that busted out Zemo, and just because you're fixing your mistake doesn't mean you get a favor from them. And they helped reprogram you, and they gave you a badass arm. Like, I don't understand, like, why you get a favor out of it. But I suppose maybe if they knew it was for Sam, maybe they would be more into it. But at the same time, like, Sam is kind of a puppet a little bit of the U.S. government, and, you know, Wakanda is just kind of like its own country. So I don't know. Like I was saying, if I was a little bit more vibing with this show, I would look over this little thing and I would just be looking forward to the suit. But now I'm just kind of like, maybe they just shouldn't be handing out vibranium stuff to any more people because it's not going super well.
Well, I mean, my guess is, again, he was there for 2 years. Who knows what else he did along the way while he was there? They could easily come back.
Maybe.
They could show that. I mean, there's the upcoming Wakanda show. There's the Black Panther too. Like, he was there for at least 2 years.
Do you think it's going to be wings that look like Bucky's arms, or do you think that everybody except Sam knew well before he started training with that shield that he should be the next Captain America, and maybe there's going to be something red, white, and blue inside of that case?
I feel it'll, if anything, it'll do the comic book look, like the Sam Wilson Captain America comic book look, which is mostly white. With like so like a white suit and like a blue star in the middle kind of thing. I think it'll be mostly white is my guess. Knock on wood, because they tend to adapt the comic book suit pretty well for some of these, especially for that one. Now I did say they did a very, very good job with the montages in this episode. The boat had a montage, and then Falcon had a montage.
The training montage. I mean, it was. I don't know.
I
all
love
of a sudden he can do these like misty flips and stuff now. It's just like, okay, I believe that you're really good at flying with this suit, but now all of a sudden that you can do like backflips out the wazoo. I mean, okay, fine, whatever.
It really hit home for me because they use the same song, the same musical score from the actual Winter Soldier movie when Steve's like I think it's at the beginning when he's running with Sam and then he like goes and goes to the ship. But yeah, but the next song, like when he's like actually being like a badass on the ship, that's the same musical score, kind of like from that movie kind of thing. So
I feel like for a normal person without superpowers to really harness the power of this shield that we have seen cause mass destruction, like we've seen Thor's hammer hit it and like level an entire forest. Like this is like no toy for sure. I feel like for somebody who with normal human abilities to really grasp what this thing can do, I feel like I need a montage that lasts more than like a weekend or a couple of weeks. I feel like it's almost like you need to get the shield, the season's over, we come back in the next season or whenever the next time you see this character and he's just like, I've been living with this shield in the jungle for 4 years and I finally know how to use it because I'm a normal human being. So that's something that I feel like I need a little bit more of. So, I guess if the show just needs to have him learn it in a weekend or a week or so with like a running montage, I guess fine, whatever.
Well, it's a comic book movie world. Like we don't need him to be in a jungle for 4 years. Even Spider-Man says that shield does not obey the laws of physics in Civil War when he's fighting. He's like, what is this? Kind of thing.
I know the only other caveat is like, it is made out of vibranium, so theoretically it's so strong and it could have all of these properties that a normal human could possibly wield it.
Yeah, it's like the shield's kind of doing its thing. At least they didn't add any like tech to the shield. Like that's all I like. I'm like when they rebuilt it, I'm like at least they didn't add any tech thing. Like it doesn't have like an LCD screen.
We do get to see a shield being built.
Yes.
in the first credit scene.
Yeah, so there's a credit scene and. Ain't no way his ghetto shield is gonna last in this battle.
That's what I was thinking too. I was just like, he's just like putting it together with just like it looks like normal tools and stuff. I feel like John, if you want to like go toe to toe with like a real shield, like first of all, don't just make it yourself. Like I know you got a couple purple hearts, but it doesn't mean that you're like a silversmith, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like maybe you should call Julia Louis-Dreyfus up on the phone and be like, can your organization put together a shield for me? I know you probably don't have vibranium, but like I don't know, like we just had a whole bunch of like aliens fight in the crater of the Avengers like campus. Maybe go find some like alien metal and like make me a shield or something. You know?
Yeah. Well, so he's. I mean, essentially, it was a really like. It was sad more than anything because I'm like, oh, this guy thinks he's Tony Stark, like building his shield with a box of scraps in a cave kind of thing. I'm like, oh, I hope he gets his due diligence with this. But
the shield seems to be identical in look. I was kind of hoping if he was kind of forging his own path, maybe he would make a slightly different looking shield.
Well, that's the thing I'm thinking. Like, is it gonna have like maybe blades on the edge? Like, is there gonna be more to this shield than we know? Like, is he sharpening down the edge to like actually be like more like a knife than a shield?
I mean, I was hoping he would kind of maybe go with more of his kind of like black and red kind of color style that you kind of see in some of the U.S. Agent comics. But I don't know. I'm a little bit more hyped for this very last episode just because I want to see what's in that briefcase. But, you know.
What's in the box?
I think overall this show isn't quite popping off for me like I said last week. But, you know. Not everybody can be perfect. You know, I'm okay with it now. Like on the episode 4, I took notes. I did not take any notes for episode 5. I just let it washed over me, and I'll be like, it'll be done in another week, and then I can just wait for Loki.
Well, I'm excited to see where who the power broker is and how they play into this long term, right, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was kind of hooking into this whole Justin Hammer conspiracy. I was like, are we going to see Hammer pop up? That'd be kind of fun to see him pop up again. But that's the thing. Even in a show that you're not really liking in the MCU, or maybe even if there's an MCU movie that you don't quite jive with, a character can be introduced and move on to another property that you might really, really like. I mean, look at the Thor movies. The Thor movies invented a ton of characters that have moved on to do a lot of great stuff that we really like. So we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the big reveals are next week and where this sets up the universe, right? Like I think, Don Cheadle was in the first episode. Maybe he filmed some scenes for this last one.
I forgot Don Cheadle was in this. Yeah.
Who the power broker is? Will this tie in anything else coming up? That's the question, because that was a big Feige thing. Like the end of WandaVision set Wanda off on a scale. She will be in Doctor Strange right next. So where do these characters get to go? Like what's their movie? Where are we going to see them at? So I'm excited to see if maybe they put Bucky back in Wakanda, kind of thing. Like hey, come do some more stuff for us, or how if they even make Sam the official Captain America of the government, or if he's just doing his own thing.
Well, I feel like I think Ao in the last scene that she was in might have said, like, keep your space from Wakanda for obvious reasons. So, yeah, I mean, Zemo's supposed to be dropped off at the raft.
Yep.
I don't know exactly why he has to go there. I would have assumed he would have gone to an Wakandan prison for his crimes, but...
Well, Wakanda opened up their borders, so they don't have to, go back and kill him there, thankfully. So, I think... Do you think, my question before next week's episode, last one before we wrap this up, will John Walker survive this episode?
I mean, that's a good question. I really like Russell Wyatt as an actor. I'm not particularly, engaged with the character as much as I'd want to be. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you're going to go to all of this effort, right, of putting somebody in the mantle, stripping them from it, giving them these superpowers, kind of giving them all of this plot, it seems like you would kind of keep him around, right? And also if he was to die, it would have to be at his own hands. Like Sam's not going to kill him, especially if he's supposed to kind of be the new Captain America or just the new symbol for peace in the world.
The girl could kill him. Was
yeah. It's gonna come from somebody else.
Yeah. So you think he'll die?
I think it's a coin flip. Honestly, it could go either way. If he continues on, maybe he's gonna be like a thunderbolt, right?
I think the only reason I say he will live is he got a card from Valentina, right? Dave Fontaine. She would give him a card if he was gonna die.
That's true. Like you wouldn't. Yeah, give me a call, even though we're setting up.
We'll contact you. Oh, you're dead. Never mind. So I don't think they'd set that up if he was gonna die off. So I think that's like the little bit of foreshadowing we get for his thing. Maybe he goes to the raft as well. That would be maybe the ending is showing him across the cells from Zemo. The raft.
Maybe we could get a proper prison break because we didn't get one earlier with Zemo.
Man, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, that first episode, prison break, right? Like that's.
I didn't say it in the quarantine stream, but we finished watching the Austin Powers movies, and in Goldmember, the third one, Dr. Evil and Mini-Me are in jail, and they go up to, I think Ving Rhames was one of the prisoners in the movie, and Ving Rhames says, "So you want us to cause a distraction, so you can escape." From prison, and he's like, yeah, pretty much like that. And I was like, oh yeah, that was Zemo's plan. He took it from Austin Powers 3. Yeah. So you can watch those on HBO Max.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Right from that movie. So, all right. I think that's it. Anything else? Wrap it up.
I think that's another week of the slate.
All right. So, Mike, people know what you're up to, what you're doing. Where can they find you at?
They can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter, Valdan, Valdan, Orange Game Valdan 87. Catch me there. People know more about the show, more about the stuff we do. Where can they find us at?
Oh, it's so easy. All you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. Head on over there to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to check out Christian Bale's bald head that, you know, we went all in on about his cargo shorts, you're only going to get that link at superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and the Gram. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. We love it when you reach out. We love it when you send us helpful links. I never would have known about this virus subplot if fan of the show Chris didn't send over that little explainer to me. So love the hints, love the tips, love it when people reach out. I will keep watching Smallville. Come back every week for an update because we are cranking through these episodes like crazy. No flights and no tights. That was the apparently the tagline that the showrunner pitched for this show. So I'm not expecting him. I know he doesn't fly. I think maybe he flies in the last episode. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what happens. Stay tuned. And he's got his heat vision. That happens in season 2. That's pretty cool. So stay tuned if you want to keep updated on my Smallville progress.
Simple things for Mike to keep him entertained.
Yeah. But we love our fans of the show. We love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of Superhero Slate, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks. But that's foreshadowing. For in 2 weeks, I'm not going to be here because I'm moving to a new place. So we might have some interruptions in the feed, but we'll let you know how it goes.
I've told Mike this. I got to fix my computer. That'd be a good weekend for us to just do everything.
It's not quite summer. That might be Superhero Slate spring break. So that might be after episode 322. So
we'll figure it out.
You'll hear us next week, folks. Don't worry.
It's cool. All right, that it? We good? We'll see you next week?
Yeah, we good. We're good. See you next week.
See you.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
To the moon, I'll say, like everybody else on the internet is saying about Dogecoin. Make me rich.